Again, welcome to all of you. My name is Nada Rosa Schröer, and I'm a curator from Cologne. And yeah, we're meeting tonight for the third and last online talk, Climbing Up the River on Water Territories and Water Rights, in the framework of the project Fluid Circulations, Hydrofeminist Explorations of Post-Industrial Landscapes, that I'm co-organizing here in Cologne, where I'm based, and also where I'm zooming in today, which I'm co-organizing with my colleague and friend Nina Peszkowski, who's also in the room tonight. Hi, Nina. And it's a project that looks at the water bodies here in the region. It's a region that has been historically and still is heavily impacted by 200 years of extraction and industrialization, especially by lignite and black coal mining. Maybe you heard of the protests that are still going on here. It also has steel, car, and chemistry industries that are all located next to the River Rhine, which is also used as a transportation tool, but also a sewage channel. So you see a lot of issues going on around water bodies here in the region, and we're doing this research through situated artistic fieldwork from a hydrofeminist perspective, which means actually to take accountability for those water bodies and to think about reciprocal relationships to those water bodies around us. And this is also, this is why I'm very convinced that we have to connect to other people around the world that are dealing not with the same, but also with similar issues, because whenever it comes to extraction, also water is a topic. So it's it's a worldwide global colonial problem that we are facing, and this is also why we have to connect to each other and speak about these problems. So yes, I'm very, very happy to connect tonight with our guests. Zooming in is also Felipe Castelblanco, who is a multidisciplinary artist and researcher working on the intersection of participation, film, and media art, and who is a close collaborator of the Ñambi Rimai Ñambi Rimai Media Collective. And together with a media collective and also with the filmmaker Lydia Zimmermann, they made a movie, Einan, which is actually an investigation of different ways of perceiving and relating to water and the notion of reciprocity between bodies of water and water bodies. And I'm also very happy that Mildred Paz Piaguaje, I don't know if she joined the meeting already, will be there tonight, or I hope though that she can connect. I'm not sure if she's there. But who is there is Wilton Rajoy, I hope I'm pronouncing your name right, and Ainan Kinshua Huachibioy. And and when it comes to ways of resisting against those necro hydrology projects of neocolonial capitalist, of the neocolonial capitalist nexus, let's say, we can also look at the legal system, not only at ways of representation and artistic practices of speaking up, but also at the legal system as a way to confront the logics of extraction. And this is why we also invited María Ximena González-Serrano. She's a researcher, a lawyer, and an activist who worked closely with Afro-Colombian communities who are living with and through the Atrato River in Colombia, and who accompanied them legally in their fight against the destruction of their water territories. So tonight she will talk about the resistance strategies, but also how different conceptions, ideas, ontologies of water can help to change the Western legal system, or hopefully change it. We can also discuss this. But before we start and I hand over to Felipe, I will give the word to Tasja Langbach, who is the artistic director of Videonale and also partner of this event. So Videonale is co-hosting this event tonight, and Videonale is a video art festival, but I think Tasja will tell us more about it. So please, Tasja, I give the word to you. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks very much, Nada, and yeah, hello also from my side. So we are really happy that we were invited by Nada to join this event and to cooperate in this event, because we gonna present INN, the work we're gonna talk about tonight as well, by Felipe Castelblanco and Lydia Zimmermann, and the Ñambi Media Collective at Videonale 19, which is a festival for video and time-based arts. And we're gonna open an exhibition at the end of March, at the 30th of March, at the Kunstmuseum Bonn, and we'll present INN for 6 weeks there as an installation. And we'll also welcome Felipe and Lydia there for a talk. We're gonna host a panel, a roundtable, which is organized by Annette Ziegert, my dear colleague, who is also here tonight. She's the curator of the festival program. And I think it's a really nice link between those two events as well, because we are also going to talk about agency on this day, on the first day of our opening days. And Felipe and Lydia will be part of a panel which is talking about agency with regard to authorship and the relationships of power within filmmaking, basically. So it's a lot about the internal strategies of power and agency when, as a filmmaker, you approach a topic like this one and are cooperating with people who are differently affected by the topic than you are as a filmmaker, maybe. So we also like talking a lot about these relationships, these internal politics of filmmaking. So slightly different focus, but I think it's a really nice combination. And I'm very much looking forward to this talk tonight. And yeah, thanks very much again for the invitation.
So Felipe, without further ado, it's your turn.
Okay, perfect. Well, hello everyone. Thank you so much for the invitation. As Nada and Tasia described, I mean, this is part of a collaboration, so I'm really happy to have here two of my collaborators, Ayenan, Wilton. We're hoping that Mildred can also connect. She's kind of trying to get online.
She's just joining.
Ah, perfect. So for those who are listening and seeing us, I guess I just will give you a very quick overview, and I'm sorry, I will maybe try to give some bits in Spanish, so Ayenan, Wilton, and Mildred kind of can follow what's happening, but we'll make it later, like a bit of a back and forth. If you have questions, it would be nice to share them. Ayenan, Wilton y Mildred, bienvenidos. Muchas gracias también por participar. Voy a hacer como una pequeña introducción de lo que hemos hecho y después saltamos a como una conversada. So, I will, for now, try to share my screen. I hope that's possible here, or do I need to get some special rights? Oh, I might have to get some kind of a screen sharing permission. If that's, good, perfect.
Is it working now?
Yeah, it's working. Can you all see my screen and my presentation? Perfect. So, bueno, Ayenan, Wilton, Mildred conocen muy bien esta imagen. So basically for you all that are seeing this image before, this is a still image, or it's a photograph that we took during one of the kind of crucial moments of the film. So I'm going to talk kind of backwards, and I'm going to locate you in a region of Colombia where this film took place and this entire process takes place, and later on explained how and why having here Wilton, Ayenan, and Mildred is for me very important. So first of all, let's kind of like locate geographically where this takes place, which is in Putumayo, in the state of Putumayo. And this is a region that is borderline with Ecuador, Peru, and is what they call the Amazon foothills. So this is where the Andean mountains and the Amazon meet. And this is an extremely diverse place. This is basically, you could have one of the steepest paths between the mountains and the forest and the rainforest, where lots of water, and because of gravity, basically travels down. So this is the place where one of the major tributaries of the Amazon River is born, which is called the Putumayo River. And it's also the place, as you can see, where because of these mountains, is an incredibly rich place in terms of biodiversity, but also cultural diversity. Este es un lugar demasiado importante en términos de diversidad biocultural. Es el punto más corto entre la Amazonía y los Andes, uno de los puntos más cortos donde la pendiente se hace más extrema. So this historically has been also the place of many quests for searches, let's say, through capitalist mindsets. One of them is coca. So there is a place where coca farming is a problem. It's also a place where, of course, indigenous nations have been here historically. And it's also a place where even El Dorado expeditions traversed 500 years ago. This is important because when you go back for a moment to this image, you will, and then you can watch later in the film, you will see a corridor where it was opened up to European colonizers in the 1500s, because it was one of the paths, one of the tracks explored in search of El Dorado. And with it wasn't just open up, but it's also like it created quickly a tendency to search for different kinds of riches in this territory. So you have gold mining, you have copper mining, you have molybdenum mining, you have coca farming, you have overuse of the land for agriculture. Les estaba diciendo que aquí estos son lugares donde desde hace 500 años se han estado explorando y se han estado, digamos que penetrando en búsqueda de distintos tipos de tesoros, desde el oro, el cobre, el molibdeno, hasta temas de agricultura, oil, petróleo. So through the process, what is important is that with the group, we have traversed various points of these territories, often traveling up and down. There is a beautiful saying that that was told to me by one of the Kijasinga leaders, Patricia. Sorry, I just spaced out on her last name. So it's basically the idea of walking with the knowledge is the way to know the territory. So this is what we've been doing with the group, which is to move up and down, and we call this process a counter expedition. Entonces, con el grupo, una de las cosas que también hemos hecho es poder movilizarnos a distintos puntos del territorio, caminando con los conocimientos. So this is important because in this process, we have established a group. What I think is really important is in the process of going there to film, we're also establishing a media collective. So it isn't just about going and making a documentary or filming X or Y with sort of all our tools coming from outside, but it's how to mobilize a group within the territory of young indigenous creators who are leaders, who have been members of the Guardia Indígena or the indigenous guards, who are very engaged with the various community organizations in these indigenous nations. So important here is that the Ñambi Rimai, it's an Inga word, translates more or less the voices along the way, but it's made of leaders, as you will meet, from about 5 nations that coexist and share this territory. So one of them is the Inga, then the Kamsha, then you have the Siona people, then you have the Kijasinga people, and Awa. We have also another person who's from the Nasa territory, who lives in this region because of displacement. But this indigenous nation is actually from up north in Cauca, it's a different part of Colombia. So with this throughout the process, we've been kind of thinking of the idea of like, reversing the idea of the filmmaking, holding the filmmaking process inside out, and really working with the media collective, kind of developing a process of making a movie when the actual event of making the movie is kind of the reason why we gathered. So in this, you can see Mildred, just various members of the collective who have been in the process. And I'm quickly going to jump to what happened around the film of Allenan. So in 2020, right before the pandemic, we had the chance of having Lydia Zimmerman as our guest instructor and friend and guest filmmaker. I had traveled with Lydia before, and she's been constant companion of the process. But what I have done is also to set up a series of workshops where there was always a guest filmmaker invited, and we would create a production along the way. Estoy diciendo que durante el año 2020 tuvimos a Lydia Zimmerman como invitada, y bueno, es una de las otras invitadas que hemos tenido durante el proceso, que se ha diseñado en torno a talleres con personajes que nos ayudan también a hacer una producción durante sus encuentros. So, I guess during this process, traveling up and down, you see a picture of Allenan, who is also a friend, like Wilton, like Mildred. They're all, we've been sharing this experience for years. And then during the last kind of filming process, we went to the Páramos, and what is really important of the Páramos is this is a unique landscape. It's an eco-region high up in the Andes. It's a type of wetland ecosystem where certain trees, for example, frailejones, who are these slow-growing plants unique to this region, are there. They grow about 1 centimeter every year. And these Páramos are really mushy. They're like sort of water repositories or water traps in a way, that they harvest all the water that comes to the high Andes via clouds, and they bring that water through the frailejones, through the plants, all the way to the soils, and then they nourish a lake. It's called La Cocha Lake, and this lake is in a way mother of rivers. It's the mother of the Putumayo River. What happens when you think about this issues like these Páramos are contested territories. These Páramos are at the moment the Quilla people are the guardians of these Páramos, which are sacred, and this is coincidentally with one of those failed expeditions by Hernán Pérez de Quesada. Failed because met another Spanish expedition who could not find anything other than gorgeous landscapes and so on, but no gold. And that's where one of this early El Dorado expedition 500 years ago failed, just basically crossing two Spanish armies who ended up fighting and killing each other. But what is important is these Páramos have been contested because they're really great, important. The soils are really important for agriculture. They're very, very fertile soils, one. Second, these frailejones are burnt for charcoal. And third, this lake has been mined in a way that maybe we're not familiar with, which is the idea of mining for oxygen. I say this because there is a lot of overfishing in this lake. Fish were planted, trout was dropped by airplanes in the 1950s in order to bring economic development to this region. So in this case, what was being mined is the oxygen, is this capacity of water of kind of sustain life. So all the way from the high Andes to the low Amazon, you have very complex situation. So I will quickly jump into 10 minutes. So let's watch a trailer. Making sure. Okay, let's watch this quick trailer of the film, and then we can jump into a conversation.
Para nosotros el agua es lo que representa la vida del ser humano, la vida de lo que existe en el planeta.
Nuestros antepasados nos dejaron bien claro qué camino hay que seguir. la forma de vida que ellos tenían es simplemente para conservar lo que ya está.
El territorio para nosotros no representa un capital, ¿no? Un respaldo económico. Representa lo que es la madre, donde está todo, ¿no? El blanco tiene un afán, se le olvida que él va de paso, pero daña todo antes de irse. Está por encima de la vida, la acumulación de fortuna.
El dorado que buscaban estas personas en su época era físico. Lo buscaban tener para obtener lo que se llama riqueza. Pero riqueza material que te puede llevar a hacer conflictos y de los conflictos llevar a hacer guerras que desunen al ser humano y a la naturaleza. Ainenan es la partícula inicial que le da comienzo a la existencia.
Okay, so I think you can still hear me, see me. Well, with this quick introduction, I mean, in a nutshell, this film explores a territory that is connected via water. Esta película explora un territorio que está conectado a través de aguas. And then it also traces the cycle of water back to its origin. So it really follows the river from the lowlands all the way to the high Andes, where this river sort of it's reignited by water. Esta película, digamos que persigue un poco el curso del río, pero en reversa, desde el Bajo Putumayo, que sería un poco cerca a Puerto Asís, el territorio de Mildred, hasta los Andes. So, as I said, this film also is not just a connection between land, but it's also a connection between cultures. And for example, Mildred, who I think joined us, I hope you can see me, hear me as well. She belongs to the nation of the Siona people who live in the low Amazon. Her community is literally on the banks of the Putumayo River, and is very dependent on what happens high in the Andes. So there is a connection, and if I'm just going to do a little mic check. Mildred, ¿me puedes escuchar? Mildred. Okay. I think I know she's connected, but let's see if we can keep a chat. Okay, so this film was first conceived as for an exhibition, as a type of like expanded cinema experience in a way, but it of course was composed also to be able to screen in various cinemas or theaters. But what is important here is that this piece, as a result of the media collective, is also a testament of a process that we have carried. So I think Mildred might not be hearing me, so I might ask both Wilton and Adnan, if you could turn off turn on your mics. I'm going to stop sharing the screen. And first, I will do a bit of a translation, so let's hope this doesn't take so long. So, Wilton y Adnan, quiero preguntarles inicialmente si ustedes me pueden dar un poco el estado, me pueden contar en qué un poco cuál ha sido el rol que desde ustedes piensan que cumplen estos procesos y por qué se hacen importantes o digamos que necesarios allí. So I'm asking them why do they think, if they can kind of give us a quick report on what happens around the uses of these processes, these media processes in their territories and why they might be important. Yeah.
Gracias, Felipe. Realmente nuestros territorios, como Felipe lo mencionaba, son territorios sagrados, cargados de mucha biodiversidad, cargados de mucha selva, de flora, de fauna, que nuestros ancestros han conservado a lo largo de la historia. Entonces, nuestro rol desde el tema de comunicación, aparte como de guardar esa memoria histórica que anteriormente nuestros mayores la usaban simplemente a través de la palabra, a través de los sonidos que transmitían sus mensajes, sus conocimientos, es guardar como un poco la imagen que tienen nuestros territorios en la actualidad, pero a la vez a través de esa imagen concientizar a nuestras generaciones venideras de la misma comunidad y también de quienes nos ven desde otros rincones, por la importancia que tienen estos recursos. Para nosotros como comunidad, esto de los recursos naturales, el agua, es prácticamente la vida. Nosotros como indígenas en nuestra comunidad, decimos que el indígena sin el territorio no es nadie. Entonces, por esta razón, nosotros como comunidades, a través de los diferentes medios, hoy a través de la tecnología ya, y como organización, como colectivo Ñambi Rimai, pretendemos conservar esa memoria, pero también que los demás puedan ver qué tenemos y que debemos valorarlo para que a futuro, como se plasma en el documental de Allenan, no tengamos que pelear y morir por agua, sino que prevenir como esos insucesos que pueden pasar.
Okay, I'll do the quick translation. I know many people might speak Spanish, but others don't. Voy a hacer una rápida traducción, Wilton, de lo que, más o menos capturando lo que dijiste. So, what is important is that, like, well, first of all, these territories, which are inhabited by various indigenous communities, are really rich in many ways, as I explained before. But what is also important is that, like the way the knowledge is passed down through, it's like oral. There's an oral transmission. What the media collective and what they find important is also to be able to reveal, to show these territories. To be able to articulate some kind of visual document or testimony of what happens. And in terms of the territory is extremely important. They say that indigenous people without territory are non-existent. So these efforts are in a way to articulate a type of defense and a type of, to articulate a way of defending and also communicating what happens in these places. Wilton says that hopefully in the future, for example, like this idea of defending water is something that might not be, hopefully it's not a fight, but at the moment there is the need to be able to, articulate media, use technologies, use means of representation to kind of show what's there and to sort of defend it. Also, for those who are listening to me and want to chip in further translation, please do it, because I know it's a very difficult job. So you might have catch something I didn't. Gracias, Wilton. Estuve traduciendo muy rapidito. Y de pronto una pregunta para Yenan. So a little question for Yenan, who's listening. En términos de las problemáticas específicas que hay en términos de agua, ¿qué nos puedes contar? Tú que has estado, pues digamos que dándole seguimiento a procesos, digamos, territoriales en el Putumayo. ¿Qué asuntos en este momento ves que se están dando en torno al río Putumayo, que debamos nosotros afuera enterarnos? So let me just translate the question. Déjame traduzco la pregunta. So I'm asking Hayenan in terms of from his point of view, what does he think are the main issues affecting or at stake in terms of the hydrologies, the Putumayo River, for example, and what should we learn, those of us not in those territories, why should we learn about it? Yeah, Dale, Hayenan. Oh. Si quieres apagar el video para que sea más rápida la conexión.
¿Sí me escuchan?
Te escuchamos, exacto, pero
Listo.
ahora es mejor. Listo, ahora sí.
¿Me escuchan? Listo. Vale, pues. Bueno, pues gracias por la invitación a todos los que están conectados y pues con respecto a la pregunta, pues es un panorama amplio, ¿no? Es un panorama bastante desolador para nuestros pueblos, pero nosotros tenemos la esperanza, ¿no? de continuar haciendo lo que siempre hemos hecho, proteger la pequeña porción de territorio que tenemos y que nos dejaron nuestros antepasados como legado.
Me dejas, voy traduciendo. Espera un momentito.
Vale.
So, well, very basically, hello everyone, and thank you so much for having him. In terms of the question, he thinks it's a bit disheartening what is happening, because what is basically there is a big challenge. We've been focusing on defending the portion of territory, the small portion of territory that was left and handed down by his elders, by the elders of his community. Yeah, continúa.
Ajá. Entonces, así como hay una conexión del ciclo del agua y en el planeta también hay una conexión entre los países. Si en algún país determinado del planeta está sucediendo algo muy fuerte, también lo van a sentir en otros lugares. Las políticas que han manejado los gobiernos, ¿no? Siempre han beneficiado las campañas de explotación, tanto de la parte del subsuelo como también las aguas superficiales. Entonces, por ejemplo, han inventado leyes que a nosotros, los pueblos originarios, nos cohíben o nos separan directamente de lo que siempre nos ha pertenecido y que siempre hemos protegido, pues por derecho.
Espérame, ya traduzco eso. So basically, like in the way that the water cycles connect the territories and connect like the mountains and the forest, for example, there is a planetary connection out there. And this connection is also felt at the level of, what happens in one country also has some kind of cascading effects or repercussions in another country. And Hayenan highlights also the political dimension of how decisions made in one place have an effect in their territories, particularly because there have been policies geared towards extraction and policies that separate, for example, the way that water exists on the surface, but there are also subterranean waters. And these politics are responsible for separating keeping these indigenous groups who do not see spaces like that, separating them for their own connection. So these policies are imposed and oblige them to embrace that separation. Yeah, si continúas.
Maybe just to add that it's also the whole legal, that's the whole legal system, no? Not politics, and then this whole Western legal system that was imposed. I'm just adding that because
please,
Maria is talking about the legal aspects of the separation. Okay, gracias, Ayman. Okay.
Vale. ¿Continúo?
Sí.
Hola, listo. Mira, entonces, nos han conllevado a los líderes de nuestros pueblos y a personas. Nos ha convocado a, también a alistarnos, a repensar nuevamente nuestras capacidades espirituales, todas nuestras intelectuales con las nuevas generaciones. Entonces, en ese marco, nos hemos dado la tarea, pues, gracias a lo que aprendimos junto con el colectivo Ñambi Rimai y con los maestros, pues, que son Felipe, Lidia, y también los capacitadores que estuvieron en el Piamonte, pues, aprender a llevar la comunicación y proteger la comunicación para proteger ese legado en el territorio es muy importante para nuestro pueblo y para continuar protegiendo estos legados. Por ejemplo, ahora hay unas políticas muy lesivas que la dejaron los gobiernos anteriores y que no nos permiten continuar protegiendo con libertad el agua. Ese es el caso del río Putumayo. Entonces, por ejemplo, ahora hay
Déjame,
la carne.
dame un momentito, traduzco más o menos resumo.
No, y termino con esto.
Ok, déjame yo un poco resumo esto.
Vale, vale.
And so for those who also can chip in and contribute for the translation, I would really appreciate, because I didn't think I grasped everything, but more or less. So in terms of the process that has been going on with the collective, like through various meetings we've had in the high Andes and the middle Andes of Piamonte, territorio Quillacinga. So we've been trying to articulate a narrative that more or less connects processes that are happening in the territories. So this aim of using media and kind of turning the tools of media is also very aligned to what is already going on at various territorial efforts, like from within these communities. So with the help of, let's say with the support that we've given in terms of during this workshop, this training, what has been happening, well, is kind of weaving through a story that is already present. That was a bit of an interpretation. So again, if anyone has further, thank you. But yeah, we're going to jump into some meaty part that Ayenan wants to share. Okay, dale, Ayenan, continúa.
Hola, sí, ¿escuchan?
Sí.
Listo. Entonces, hay una política del gobierno que dice que las CAR o los entes territoriales tienen el derecho, pues, completo para hacer el manejo de las cuencas hidrográficas, sean micro, medianas o sean las cuencas más grandes como es el río Putumayo. En este orden de ideas, el río Putumayo nace en el Alto Putumayo y a este y a este nacimiento lo alimentan los páramos, que los páramos son los que siempre, pues, desde pequeño hemos caminado y hemos protegido la fauna y la flora que, que está en la parte alta. También ese manejo que le va a dar la carta es alrededor de más de 17.000 hectáreas a lo largo del río Putumayo, de la cuenca alta del río Mocoa, que alimenta también el río Putumayo. Y a esta cuenca alta del río Mocoa la alimentan los dos ríos que nacen en la parte en la parte de El Paraíso, que es la nueva extensión del pueblo Kamsá y del pueblo Kamsaín. Y bueno, entonces el juego de ellos, pues que ellos siempre son lesivos y solamente hacen participar en un programa. Entonces, lo que nosotros planteamos como jóvenes y como consejo de nuestro pueblo es que se toque el plan de manejo ambiental de acuerdo a la cosmovisión de nuestro pueblo Kamsá, y pues también para que sirva como ejemplo para los otros pueblos. Entonces estamos en ese proceso de mega protección y estamos haciendo pues los grandes esfuerzos a través pues de la parte jurídica, también de la parte histórica, de la parte cultural y también pues de la parte de medios de comunicación y desde la parte cinematográfica también, como es en esta ocasión pues la oportunidad. Yo quiero compartirles
Espérate,
para que el Facebook se los coloco allí para que lo miren. Bueno, y mientras traduciendo, ¿listo?
Listo. Gracias. Well, okay, so there is really crucial and detailed translations are always hard in these cases, but the gist of it basically is Ayenan is referring to this environmental agency that is the one in charge of like the governing body to draw environmental zoning in the Amazon, in the Andes. So what they do is that in the way that these maps and the zones are plotted, it creates, it doesn't take into account the dependency of various ecosystems and the interconnectedness or the interconnection of for example, what happens in the low Andes versus the high Andes, and there are like bodies of water that depend on each other, but based on the zoning, they don't have the same type of management. So what his community is maybe asking and is trying to do is to deploy a plan that is more articulated and is not just in terms of big territorial claims, but it's also articulate this through storytelling, through cultural efforts, to bring into awareness the need to connect the dots again. That's in a way I'm interpreting what he said, but for example, like the Paramo, the place that you see in the film, is a place that is very important and familiar to them, which is also very dependent and interconnected to the more sort of tempered, the more like lower, more kind of tropical parts of this forest. So again, what is quite crucial is that through film, for example, we've been also finding a way to tell that story of weaving, connecting, articulating a different view from what is sort of put forward by the governing environmental agency. Sí, Ayenan. So Ayenan placed the link of the Ñambi Rimai. So for those, it's in the chat. If you want to just go there and kind of have a little quick visit to our chat. Yenan, ¿quieres agregar algo más?
Pues,
¿O Wilton?
¿aló? ¿Escuchan? ¿Sí? No, simplemente que como se avecina también una celebración muy importante para nuestros pueblos, nosotros hemos hecho hincapié en que ya pues no solamente es un disfrute como siempre lo hemos hecho, sino que también es la reivindicación y protección del agua. Entonces, nosotros, pues algunos como hermanos Kamsas, pues hacemos esta celebración pues como para reivindicar la presencia de nuestro pueblo Kamsa y también el Inga, como para proteger. Y pues con respecto a eso también espero poder estar allí y unir también un par de vídeos que estoy tratando de conectar con el fin también de visibilizar esa protección que hacemos nosotros. Y pues, no, agradecerles a ustedes pues por apoyar, por estos grandes esfuerzos que nosotros desde nuestros territorios intentamos hacer y pues comunicarlo así como hemos aprendido.
So, okay, voy a traducir. So first of all, look, there will be a really important event coming up in his territory, and it's called the Busnatek. I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing this.
Yes.
But it's also the Inga call it El Carnaval del Perdón, the forgiveness, the Carnival of Forgiveness. So this is a cultural practice. It's not just carnival. It's not only celebration party. But it's also a type of a display, or is a convening where these visions of defense, of like harmonization with the territory take place. So what is important is that in these moments of coming together is where this kind of shared commitment to protection, to defense of the natural surroundings, environment, gets strengthened in the community. So this festival will take place in mid-February, so Ayenan will join, and then that's the place also where they release and show some of the films that they have been producing lately, connected to various environmental campaigns. And yeah, so probably through the link you can learn more about this festival, which is quite an important event. And then I wanted to say that unfortunately Mildred couldn't join or couldn't connect because she just sent me a quick WhatsApp. She's apparently, because we're speaking of rivers, it's apparently raining like this. There is no way that she can hear us or speak. But I hope we can address further questions later on. So, Wilton, ¿alguna frasecita, algo para cerrar?
Sí, es como también complementar un poco el tema de nuestra celebración a la que hacía referencia Yenan sobre el busnateo. También para nosotros los ingas el Atún Puncha, el Día del Perdón y la Reconciliación, y ese pagamento que nosotros le hacemos a la Madre Tierra, ¿no? El agradecimiento por todos los recursos naturales, por todas las bondades que nos da, por la vida que nos da. Entonces, importante también, y como desde el colectivo se ha tratado de mostrar esos espacios para seguir con ese legado que tienen nuestras dos culturas en el Valle del Sibundoy, tanto la cultura inga como Kamsa.
So he's also referring to this very important event in the Inga community. They call it Atum Puncha. As I said, the Forgiveness Carnival. So what is something crucial, or something crucial here, is that an offering is practiced. So this carnival is an offering, a way of thanking, giving thanks to the earth, which has been this is quite important. We tried to show this in various ways through the film, and also the media collective is a practice of offering. So they see this work as a way of thanking and strengthening this connection via a practice of gratitude with earth, with Mother Earth. So that is what this festival is extremely important, and it's a way of yearly renewing this vote of gratitude, which I think is very important for us all over the world to practice, to thank Earth for everything it gives us. So the Inga is both the Inga and the Kamsha people they call it, Ayenan makes the correction, it's not carnival, it's Bexnatek. This is the big day. So it's not a carnival, it's a big day, it's called. Okay, so yeah, thank you so much. And I think I might have been going a bit over time, but if you have further questions, we probably are happy to answer them in a few moments.
Yeah, thank you very much also from my side, Ayenan and Wilton. And sí, muchas gracias también de mi parte a Ayenan and Wilton por estar aquí. And now I will hand over to María Ximena, who will give an input about her research and her experience. So yeah, and then as Felipe said, if you have any questions, we will have time, I think approximately in 15 to 20 minutes to discuss and to talk. Thank you, Maria.
Thank you very much. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes, we hear you.
And do you have my presentation? Because I think the moment.
I will share it. Here. Do you see my screen?
Let me. Yes, I see it. So first of all, thank you very much, NADA and the Fluid Circulations Project for this invitation, and of course to my colleagues Felipe, Ayawan, and Wilton. It is a pleasure to share with you this space. And I want to share with you some reflections about the experience of the Atrato River case. As you know, this case or this river has been recognized as the first river with rights in Colombia and the third of the world. However, it is important to see how has been the process behind the communitarian process to defend the river. It's not only about a decision taken by the judges or by the courts. It is important to consider how have been all the strategies taken by the communities and how their practices, their relationships, and of course, all the resistance have been pushing new boundaries and new horizons in law. So I just want to share with you this experience, and I think this could be a good dialogue between the Putumayo River and the Atrato River. Willington y Ayan, yo solamente quería decirles que este es un escenario de diálogo entre el río Putumayo y el río Atrato. Al final son dos ríos que enfrentan problemáticas bastante críticas y en donde las comunidades han jugado un rol muy importante en su defensa. Entonces voy a contar un poquito de cómo fue el proceso comunitario en defensa del Atrato y cuáles han sido las estrategias, los mecanismos de articulación detrás de esa decisión. No se trata solo de qué dicen las cortes o qué dicen los jueces. Es importante entender y tener muy claro el rol de la gente. Y sobre todo, cómo se articula con otras estrategias, ¿no? En este caso, estrategias artísticas y en mi caso, legales. So, next one, please. Yes, so this map can give us an image of the rights of nature expansion across the world. But what I want to say here is that in 2016-17, the Constitutional Court of Colombia declared the Atrato River as a bearer of rights, as a subject of rights. And it is the first river in Colombia with this new category of protection. And after this decision, we can see increasing like a small balling effect, you know, because several watersheds and rivers have been declared as subject of rights. However, it is important to consider, as I mentioned before, how has been the rooted and collective processes in the territories. So, yeah, next one, please. Yes, so I think that the core of the Constitutional Court decision in the Atrato River case was how change the vision of nature in law, taking into account the ecocentric perspective of the ecocentric turn in law, you know, to see nature not only as an anthropocentric or not based in an anthropocentric view, rather to consider nature as something different, as a resource. However, these ecocentric approaches, at least at the moment, has been or have been framed from Western views. So I think that local communities have different practices, ontologies, and relationships very, very different of this Western world of views. So I want to show you how has been this different visions in the Atrato River case. So the next one, please. So the first thing that I want to show you is where is located the Atrato River Basin. It is located in the northern Pacific lowlands of Colombia. It is one of the rainiest regions in the world. So its catchment area is known to be amongst the world greatest for the biological diversity. And at the same time, in the last 30 years, this area has been pretty polluted and deforested. So the river, as the Putumayo River, is born in the Andean region, in the border of Chocó and Antioquia, and all the river flows through a dense jungle until came into the Urabá Gulf. You know, this is like the Caribbean Ocean. So it is a very, very vast and dense basin, and is inhabited by indigenous peoples and afro-descendant communities. Next one, please. So as you can see, the Atrato River Basin is a pluricultural and pluriethnic river basin. It's also a pluri-ecosystemic basin. And from this point, it is important to consider that there is not only one river. We are talking about many rivers, many communities, many relationships, and many ways of living. Next one, please. Yes, so this river has been, of course, an aquatic territory. So people have a strong or a very closely relation with the river and with water. And in a way, I can say that they are water communities, communities that are in constant poaching and living with water. It is a way of life. And the river is a fundamental axis of livelihoods, productivity, and spirituality. One of the main livelihoods in this region has been mining, artisanal mining. So it is important also consider, yes, mining can be different practices also. And this is a good example of that. Next one, please. However, across the history, this territory has been disputed by armed actors, and we can see a lot of presence of guerrillas, paramilitary groups, and of course the official military of the states, of the military forces of the state. And therefore, it has been a scene of warlike confrontation with systematic violence and loot that continues to this day. In the last decades, the most violent events and situations and aggressions have killed hundreds of victims. Social leaders have been murdered and disappeared, and entire communities have been displaced. So for that reason, we can say that the river itself has been also an axis of death, dispossession, and armed conflict. So the river is in between the life and death. Next one, please. So in this context, do we have a question? And it is, okay, but all this violence, why? Why all this violence in this region? And one answer is that violence and the presence of the armed actors is linked in a way with the extractive activities in these territories. And of course, it is connected with the control over territories. So in a way, we can say that the Atrato River has been connected with global economies through the extraction of minerals, timber, rubber, monocrops, and of course, coca. Next one. However, I should say that despite all this critical context regarding violence and human rights violations, this region can speak about the recomposition of life, because people in this place have resisted for a lot of years or many years to these critical issues. And as you can see in this photo, nature is also, or can also be reconfigured, or can also persist to live. So in this image, we can see a police station that was dynamited. I don't know how can I say that in English, but that was affected by a bombed by the FARC guerrillas in Bojayá. And the photographer took this photo, I think that 2 months after the massacre. And you can see the vegetation is growing up again over the dead place. And people is the same. They have resisted to all this violence, but they insist in life. And they, have incorporated many strategies to live in this situation. Next one. So another question that can emerge is, okay, but with all this landscape of destruction and difficulties, how have been the processes of, contestation and mobilization. And I can say that the river has played a crucial role in the mobilization, in the strategies of articulation between communities, between different actors, churches, NGOs, lawyers, scientifics, etc. So the river is also a platform of contestation and political mobilization. It is also the place and the scenario, the setting of this resistance. Next one. So I just want to do a short pause here to talk about something, because yes, we can, take this image of the confrontation, violence, toxicity in the territory. But one crucial question is, okay, but what is the river for the communities? How the people conceive the river? It is a natural resource, or is an object, or is a place, is just a space. And I was so surprised, because talking with the Black communities and with some leaders, I just heard these expressions and I want to share it with you. For example, William Rivas, he is a poet and a lawyer, and he says something like, the river represents life and death. A river that overflows is a river that gets angry and carries everything away. The river feels. According to how its creek is, the river behaves. The river dies. It is a being. It is an existence. Or for example, I have another testimony. Liz Neiderin-Stroza is a lawyer, but she is a Afro-Colombian lawyer, and she comes from this region, from the rivers. So she said something like, rivers in Chocó are not isolated elements. They are other beings and existences with their own life, different to human life, but connected to them and linked with spirituality. Rivers and water have spirits, and every one of them has their own function. Diana Mosquera, she is a cooker, a cocinera, and she is pretty expert about the linkages between territory and gastronomy and food. And she said something like, rivers and people are one and the same. In the Colombian Pacific region, there is no Black peoples without a river. And Fanny Rosmira Salas, she is like, defensora, una líder, de la Cocomasia, one of the main organizations of the region. And she says, we are defending the life of all beings. Water is alive, it feels, resents, and reveals. And Adit Bonilla, she is like a geographer and cartographer, but she is also from Chocó and from this river. And she says, we are people from the river. The river is an extension of our life. So I just want to point out these different visions, because they are visions not embedded in law. They are not recognized by law, and even the Constitutional Court decision have taken different references and legal, basis to recognize the Atrato River as a subject of rights. And I think that these ontologies, cosmovisions, understandings should be recognized in law. And this is a crucial part of the work that we need to continue working on, because it's not done. Next one, please. So taking into account this vision of people, of Black peoples, what I think and I am thinking about is how the articulation between Black peoples, Black communities, and the river have created from below 3 different legal frameworks in Colombia. So I think that this connection between peoples, Black peoples, and the river itself has been a relevant articulation that can transform the Western legal framework. And I have been deconstructing 3 main, fronts or 3 main milestones of this process. The first one is the cultural, ethnic, and territorial rights through the Law 70 of 1993. This was like a big law for afro-descendant communities, and it's a national law. However, riverine communities have developed a crucial role to gain this law and to grant collective rights and territorial rights to afro-descendant communities. It is not also a work of the power of the state, of the bureaucratic people. It's also a work of communities. The second is the transitional justice legal framework to confront war and dispossession. So in Colombia, we have, like a body of laws, very, very complex regarding the construction of peace, reparation to victims, restitution of law on land, and yes. However, we can consider that all these have been made by the state. No, local communities have played a crucial role. In the case of the afro-descendant people, they have created an enfoque territorial focus. And the people from the Atrato River has been crucial to do it. And of course, the sentence or the ruling that recognized the Atrato as a subject of rights. It was not a decision taken by the court because, the court, no. Before that, or beside that, we can find a big collective processes behind. So this is my, my thought about how people can transform law. And I am convinced of that. So next one, sorry, I'm just talking a lot. So to give some, texture to this statement, I took the concept of embarking. This concept is from a Colombian anthropologist, Natalia Quiseno, and she says, embarking refers to the multi-level interactions between communities and the Atrato River. The river has been a space where a wide repertoire of practices and actions of political, cultural, and daily resilience to face adversity converge. Next one, please. And okay, this slide is like, okay, a lot of things, but I put some of those practices and actions that have been taking place in this river, between the river and people. There are many. This is incredible. For example, multi-scale and multi-temporal dialogues between peoples and armed actors, humanitarian agreements, territorial peace agendas, mingas, humanitarian and biodiversity zones. They have constituted specialized teams, technical commissions, legal commissions, They have created regional platforms for permanent dialogue, humanitarian symbolic pilgrimage. Sorry, my English is not too good, but scientific missions, etc. So some examples. Next one. Okay. Regarding the declaration of the river as a subject of rights, it has emerged something that I called judicialization. Judicialization has been the process of, giving all the political claims of peoples to the courts. And this judicialization has occurred in Colombia regarding Black peoples from 1990s to 2000s. Black peoples have, established a communication with institutions. They have deployed a lot of strategies of advocacy and civil resistance. However, the war was so hard and powerful. And for that reason, these advocacy strategies was putting apart. I don't know, they became in a crisis, because yes, they were talking with the state to gain the collective territories, and at the same time, the paramilitary forces occupied the region and committed a lot of massacres and disappearances. So this, ambiguous and bizarre relationship with the state was the point to, go into the courts. So judicialization appeared in that time. And yeah, afro-descendant peoples, presented a lot of lawsuits regarding displacement, war, toxicity, land dispossession, and etc. Next one. So in this context, connected with a regional and local agenda to construct peace in the region, the Black peoples and all the articulation of social organizations in this region, they were very, very worried about the river, because all destructive pressures had critical effects. So at this point, we were invited to the Black people's, Black organizations, to give some advice, to create a strategy, an integral strategy, and to create some routes, not only connected with the effects of war on human rights violations, but also with extractive industries regarding mining and palm oil plantations and so on. So in this context, all this strategy to the protection of the river has taken place, and yes, next one, please. So what was the strategy? It was not only to present a lawsuit to the court, it was embarking us in the river. So we developed a school in the Atrato River Basin, a communitarian school. We did a lot of the repertoires that I mentioned before, all the actions that I mentioned before, we implemented in this time to, to embark in ourselves in this process and to defend the river before the courts. So the process of the elaboration of the lawsuit and all the pathway, it was like a long process. like, I don't know, 10 years. So it was a long process. Next one. And yes, for example, for us, it was very important that the decision wasn't taken by the court in Bogota, in the center of the power. No, for us, it was important that the court can see the reality, can be connected with the territory and with the river. And for that reason, as you can see, this is an image of the Inspección Judicial, where the judges came to the river and listened to all the people, and, you know, like they were involved in the problem and in the environment, and they felt nature and they felt the river itself. And this was, I think, the crucial evidence into the litigation process. Next one, please. So yeah, those are some examples of what kind of things we did to, you know, to reinforce our strategy. These were some technicians visits, you know, because it was important also to take some water samples and to measure parameters of quality and so on. Next one. And yes, and this is, I think, the link between the strategic litigation and the artistic strategy, because as a part of the litigation process, we involve some artists, some journalists and media communicators to expand the voice of the communities and to be in touch with another publics. And it was very important to develop a strategy of communication and a strategy also of sensibilization and of involving artists and different actors to be in touch with the problem of the Atrato River. So this was a campaign called We Are Guardians of the Atrato River. And yeah, and this was not only a local campaign, it was a national campaign, an international campaign. So it was like part of the process. And yeah, what else? Next one, please. Yeah, so I will say that from my perspective, the communities in this river have like an own style for claiming rights. And it's based on the spoken word, because we are talking about orality and the power of la palabra, el poder de la palabra, the power of the spoken word. We are also talking about movement. It is, as river teach us, it is important to move and to create different ways, different tactics, different expressions, narratives. They also have creativity because they are all the time creating new ways, creating new meanings, new possibilities. It's incredible. And diversification, these two ones are connected. So in a way, I would say that, yeah, there are a known style for claiming rights. Yeah, next one, please. And yeah, this is just, I am so late. But yeah, the constitutional ruling, which has created these innovative riverine rights, has been a response of these historical communitarian claims against war, racism, colonialism, exclusion, extractivism, and toxicity. The Atrato case is a good example of communitarian, interdisciplinary, and multi-stakeholder breakdown strategy to defend water and rivers. It was formed by cultural, educational, juridical, political, and communicative fronts of action in different levels. Rivers are in constant movement, material, political, and symbolic. Yes, so I think that and the last one, there are multiple visions, relations, practices between local communities with water, rivers, and nature. And it is time to make room in law and politics to this ontological diversity. So yeah, this is all, and thank you very much for your attention. I'm so sorry because my English is not too good, but I try to do it, and yeah, thank you.
So yeah, thank you very, very much, María Ximena, for your presentation that gave a lot of really, really interesting insights into this process, which is a fluviverse process. And it actually also gives so much, let's say, I have a lot of questions in mind about actually also speaking from nearby, speaking about the River Rhine, where I am situated, and about this, let's say, very different perspective on the river that I feel. It's more a feeling that I have considering our relationship here to the river. And yeah, so, but first of all, I would like to open up the round. So every one of you who's still here in the room, so thank you for staying with us. It has been a long night, but I think we had some fantastic guests here, and it's also precious that you shared your knowledge with us. So everyone that has questions now, there are some in the chat, I don't know. No, not that I see, but yeah, maybe you can just open your mic and share with us what you want to comment or ask, or yeah, maybe also disculpa a Wilton y a Enan, que no hemos ido traducción para esta presentación, pero tal vez es posible que María Ximena, que se conectan entre ustedes para, no sé, intercambiar. Sí, gracias.
I was sending periodically some voice messages with a bit of a translation to them, so they more or less know what
thank you so much.
Okay,
thank you so much, Felipe.
Hopefully we connect later on, definitely. Thank you.
Yes. Okay, so are there any questions from the remaining participants?
I guess while someone comes up with a question, I just wanted to highlight this issue of translation, because it's impending that we find ways to kind of address, to kind of pass these messages back and forth, because like I am appearing here as a translator, as a kind of messenger, but oftentimes I see this process as well as a type of translation, like what you just said, María Ximena, to bring the courts, to bring the legal experts of, like, the judges and all that is so important. But for example, like not the film Allenam, but other films have been part of reports that get attached to kind of legal reports presented to the UN by the INGA leaders as a translation to show them what they cannot see, as a visual translation that doesn't really capture maybe in a written report some aspects of that filmmaking can. But anyhow, I think it's, yeah, we often refer to, we speak just finding ways of being able to translate, to be able to pass the messages a bit more broadly is quite important to me.
Thank you, Felipe. There is a comment in the chat. Evelina, do you want to open your mic and comment on your thoughts?
Yeah, I can open my mic, but I cannot start my camera. I'm so sorry. I was
That's fine.
I have a problem with my face today, just in short. I'm so sorry. I just want to comment on a fantastic presentation that Maria gave. I'm from Poland, and I would say I'm a feminist, post-humanist, blue humanities researcher, and I'm so into researching what happened to river otter recently now in Poland, which was like a major catastrophe that happened. Thousands, millions of dead fish found because the government allowed polluting the river in a tremendous way. So it's very informative and learning how we can react and what kind of strategies we can apply in terms of to proceed the artivism and activism, the aquatic activism towards legal tools. So also this connection, what I wrote in the comment became very clear to me, the connection between the actions of local communities and the power of local communities, and then the final result of the environmental personhood of the river. So we are also happy to hear about so many rivers, and more rivers are related to this concept, and we all want to know how it is possible, how it happened. And now it's so clear to me the way it happens, because so many people, humans and more than humans, I would say, unite to proceed with this concept and the new environmental laws that are so much needed. Thank you. I will not take your time.
Thank you, Evelina. And I must say that also Poland has some really interesting groups and hydrofeminist groups like Alicia Rogalska, who's I don't know if you know her. She's leading the River Systems Collective. So
of course, I know.
Yeah, and parts of our group of fluid circulations are also from Poland. Zakole group, I don't know if they're here, but yeah, just hey. So yeah, I'm very happy to have those connections actually. Also to exactly those connections to the Oder, from the Rhine to the Oder to the Atrato, which are
at this moment are currently
contexts.
So, sorry to interrupt, but the parallel process has been going in Poland now, because like the collectives you mentioned, they are fighting for regaining the agency of the river and the representation, the bottom-up representation for the river, to take the power from the government and to represent the river through the local communities, and also by the artists who mobilize these local communities. So it's also important to see this in a horizontal way, the parallel processes that's been going in the different parts of the globe at the moment.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, thank you very much for this comment. Is there anyone else?
I just wanted to say that thank you very much for everyone who shared tonight. Very, very interesting, very rich, very many thoughts to be carried along now the next couple of days. What you said, Felipe, with the translation was interesting, because it was kind of a topic during this conversation while you were translating. But this is actually what this is about on a more global level, right? I mean, there are these different languages, and I'm not just talking about these kinds of languages we are speaking, but there's languages that we speak with the waters as well, and ways of communication. So it's like, I think coming back to what you said, Evelina, opening to artivism, it's like, how can we actually find a way to capture or somehow to explore different forms of languages that unite beyond this kind of speaking, but also, you know, with the rivers. And this is really, I think, the way forward. I don't know, these were some of the thoughts I had during this talk, and that's why this word translation for me is really like a very important keyword when we're talking about the way that things are globally affecting each other. Yeah, I just wanted to put that in there. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Nina. My colleague and friend in fluid circulation system. So maybe I would like to ask one question to Maria. And then probably we will have to close the meeting. I say that as a moderator, I could go on talking, but we're already kind of over time. So I would ask my question, and then maybe someone want to close, and then yeah, we can go on connecting to each other. If you want, just write me and we can make the connections internally. But Maria, so for me, to add one word maybe next to translation would be mobilization, because this is also what I was thinking in relation to what we're experiencing here, for example, in Cologne, that it is extremely hard to mobilize people for the causes of environmental protection. I mean, it's not for this big issues, like, for example, brown lignite coal mining. We saw huge protests, like 30,000 people are coming to demonstration, which is a huge success for the environmental movement here. But in terms of the daily action, the consisting engagement, which is then really, yeah, on a daily level, let's say, and on a cultural level, in a way that it is really part of your daily cultural habits to be with the river, to fight for the river, or to take position, to take a stance for it on different levels and different institutions. This is extremely hard, I would say. I don't feel this connection so much here. Nina, you had this experience in Poland that you felt maybe that there those collective mobilization works are also a kind of, that it is more active than here, but here in Germany I feel it more, that there is not so much of this, let's say, yeah, it's hard to translate those feelings towards the river. So I would like to ask you, how did this mobilization that you took part in, how did it work? Did it came from the community, or were there people approaching the community, making offers and doing, let's say, proposing something, or was this something that really coming out of this communities living with and through the river? And how to make it consistent or going on?
Mm-hmm. Yes, this is a good question and reflection, because I think that the relationships between peoples and rivers are pretty different across the globe. And in Colombia and in the Pacific lowlands, we can have still this close relationship between peoples and the river, because they depend of the river for all their livelihoods, you know, fishing, agricultural, mining, for everything. So it is a very, very close and daily relationship. And I remember that the origin of the initiative was a proposal made by some women. We were doing like a workshop with some leaders in the lower part of the river, and we were talking about, okay, what have been the most change, or the critical change in the last time in the environment, in their territories, moreover the war. And they said, okay, the river, the water, the fish, we can't fish in anymore, we can drink our water anymore, we can wash our clothes in the river anymore. So the main change that they have been experiencing at that time was the change of the river, even the color of the river. So it was something pretty daily, you know. And in a way, this was the, okay, and what can we do about it? And how? And this is a problem not only here, this is a problem over the river. This is a problem connected. This is a, you know, the river, as Felipe mentioned, is a connector between territories. And the strategy was so important, and in a way from a communitarian perspective, because it permits to connect communities. So this was the origin. But I think that here in Europe, there are, I don't know, like distant take a distance with nature. I don't know how can explain it better, but yes, and it is also a rational relationship. In our country, we are always, in contact with nature as a part of the cumbia, of our dancing, of our. So I don't know. I think that we need to give more voice to women, to give more voice to the historical relationships and practices in their territory. It is important to work in memory. And in Europe, the history of the rivers and water as resources has a long story, has a long time, and it's important to break. I don't know, So this is my reflection about it. Yeah, but it's all the time a mobilization and translation process in different directions and narratives too.
Yeah, thank you very much, Maria. So I think these are great final words, unless someone wants to say something more or ask something more.
Can I just, because we're talking about the importance, and I'm really sad that Mildred could not participate. Her community lives by the banks of the Putumayo River. She sent me a contribution by voice message over WhatsApp, which you might hear it. So she basically, not to make it longer, she describes how, for example, a lot of oil companies have moved very near their territory, and they had to bring the indigenous guards and authorities to kind of persuade them to not settle there and to pursue exploration. But one thing she highlights in this is, in terms of this awareness and this recognition, that it's not just rights to the river, but it's rights to the life that a river carriers. So it's kind of understanding this deeper, maybe there is her community has a deeper kind of more deep level consciousness of otherness, in terms of there are fish, there are small animals, and there are all kinds of life that also live off the river. So I think what she says is this awareness that a river is a carrier of life, and that life deserves that kind of defense or this protection. Because it's I'm sure with the river, or the rights to the river, is the rights to life, to all those species who make of that river a home. That more or less is her contribution. I just didn't want to end the talk without sharing that note by Mildred.
Yeah, thank you so much. I think it's very nice to also close the meeting with the words of Mildred. Giving rights to the river means giving rights to life, and this is what it's all about. So thank you so much to everyone who participated. And as I said, if you want to connect between each other, just write me and I will hand over the contacts. And it would be lovely to stay in contact about our different projects, different contracts in the fight for, or in this continuous work, to keep on continuously working on this relationship of reciprocity that is so important. So yeah, so just quickly, I have to say this at this point. Thank you to our funders, which are Kulturamt Stadt Köln, Kunststiftung NRW, Sparkassen Kulturstiftung Rheinland, Sparkasse Köln-Bonn, Stiftung Kunstfonds as part of Looting the Normal, at Kunstwerk and our partners Kumbik, das Kulturgetriebe Kunstwerk, Videonalen 19, and Watson Marlow Fluid Technology Solutions. So thank you so much to the people who gave us the means to do this talk. And with these words, I would like to say thank you and goodbye, and hopefully see you soon.
Muchas gracias por compartir. Thank you very much.